Does your 100 series Land Cruiser sound like there's a goose being strangled under the hood? Do you have an ABS warning alarm? Well, this might be the issue, and on this episode of The Fad Show, I'm going to show you how I changed this out on my 100 series Land Cruiser. Alright, so for the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and remove the negative terminal of the battery, since I'm going to be touching a bunch of electrical connectors. Just like to do this in case you end up shorting something out. Go ahead and put a glove over it so it can't reconnect. So next I'm going to remove the fluid from the reservoir. I'm using a fluid extractor, which is just a syringe with some Tygon tubing on it to remove all the brake fluid from the reservoir. It doesn't have to be completely empty, but it will make things less messy when you go to remove it. I will mention that before starting to remove the fluid, you have to depressurize the accumulator on the brake booster. To do that, you just press the pedal 40 times with the key out of the ignition. It eventually will go all the way to the floor, so you know that you've depressed the accumulator. So the next thing I did was go ahead and label all of the EVAP lines that I'm going to be removing, and I'll label the electrical connectors on the brake unit itself. I think these are not interchangeable, so you can't really screw that up. These are different sizes, but could possibly be screwed up, so I just went ahead and labeled everything so I won't have any issues. Alright, so now that I got most of the fluid out, I'm going to go ahead. I think I'm going to remove the EVAP unit just to give me more room to see what I'm doing in here. So these vacuum lines have to come off. They've been labeled. And actually I think my EVAP unit was just replaced, so hopefully it'll be easy to get this stuff off. Say that, and now this one doesn't want to come off. I guess I forgot to restart the camera here, so I'll use this clip to show what I did. I removed these 3 vacuum lines that are on the charcoal unit, the 2 electrical connectors, and then there's one 12mm bolt horizontally in the side of it that holds it on, and then the whole unit slides up and out. Alright, so I think the easiest way to explain what you have to do at the firewall is to look at the new unit. So this is where it connects to your actual brake pedal, and there's what Toyota calls a clevis pin that goes in here, which is obviously just a dowel goes through there, and then there's a safety pin on it that has to be removed. And then there's these 4 studs that go through the firewall, and they have 12mm nuts on them. There's also a gasket. So yeah, I'll try and show you in the footwell, although I don't know how well this is going to work. So this, unfortunately, I think is going to be one of those working on car puzzles. The 4 12mm bolts are at the back of the brake pedal where it mounts to the firewall. I can't really see my camera to see if I'm actually showing you them, but this is just kind of one of those puzzle pieces where you're just going to have to figure out what extension, what swivel you need to make it all work. I think in the Toyota manual, they actually removed the ABS module in the brake assembly. They also removed this panel. I'm gonna try and just make it work from doing some car yoga and trying to get to those. So let you know how it goes. Removing the 4 bolts without taking the dash panel off was actually surprisingly easy. On the removal, I ended up using extensions and swivels, but when I went to go put the new one on, I found that just using a ratcheting wrench that has a flex head worked for 3 out of the 4. It would have been a lot easier getting it off. Also, the hardest part of this was getting the safety pin back on the clevis pin when putting it back together. It was really easy to get it off, just pulling it off with some needle nose pliers. Going back on was definitely the most difficult part of this entire job, but it definitely can be done with the ABS module in place and with the dash panel in place. Okay, so now I'm going to do all the electrical connectors, and then the last thing I'm going to do is remove the brake lines. I got everything removed from the firewall. It actually wasn't too bad. I mean, I've definitely done much harder stuff before. Not to say it was easy, but it wasn't bad. These electrical connectors are the bane of my existence. And obviously with these you don't want to pull it all from the wires. But they've been on here for 20 years, so. Alright. Sometimes I like to put gloves over these too to protect them. I'll definitely hit them with contact cleaner before I put them back on. And then obviously this is the part where we're gonna remove the brake lines, and you can't get any brake fluid on the paint or it's gonna eat it up. So as I remove these brake lines, I'm gonna go ahead and put vacuum gloves over them so that they don't get damaged.
Removing the brake booster from the car is one of those times where I wish I could tell you exactly how to do it. Unfortunately, it's just one of those car puzzles you're going to have to fight with and figure out. Just be careful of the brake lines not to damage the flared fittings. I put vacuum caps over mine to try and protect them. You just have to find the right angle to free it from the firewall. And then once you lift it off the studs, I will warn you, it is surprisingly heavy. It probably weighs about 40 to 50 pounds. So just be prepared for that.
Okay, so here comes the new actuator symbol, including the gasket, the little dimple faces towards the firewall.
And from here, I hate to say it, but the installation is the reverse of the removal. I did have to bend a few of my brake lines back into place. It was helpful having a picture from before to see how they're routed. And I will say the new brake lines fit very tight into the new accumulator unit, so it took quite a bit of force when tightening down the flared fittings, which was a little alarming at first, but everything's seated nicely and did not leak.
Alright, actually wasn't so bad. Now, the decision, I don't know what to hook up first. I think I'm gonna put the bolts in the firewall just finger tight, and then I'll do the brake lines. I think that's what I'm gonna do. Alright, so now I'm gonna turn the ignition on and then time how long it takes for the pump to run. I really can't do this with one hand, so I'll let you know how it goes. Basically, you're looking for a time of 30 to 40 seconds, and you just keep doing this until it's within spec and it gets that air out. So it was right at 30 seconds the first time, so now I'm done. I just need to bleed all four corners, which I'm alone right now, so I can't do that. So I guess I'm done for now. Overall, pretty easy so far. I would say the biggest challenge was getting that like cotter pin back in for the brake pedal. That fought me the most. Otherwise, it was pretty good. Hopefully these brake lines don't leak. Fingers crossed. They just felt like they were cross-threading. It took so much force to get them on. But honestly, I think if I remember correctly, it took a lot to get them off too, so. All right, I'm ready to do the front left. Yeah.
You're ready?
Yeah.
Open the bleeder. Is it open?
Yeah.
You have to tell me.
It's open. Can I close it?
No. Close it now.
It's closed. Alright, there's still air, we have to do it again.
Okay. It's resting, so.
Alright.
Tell me when you open and close it, like confirm to me, because I have to click next.
Okay.
Okay, front left again.
I'm ready.
Open bleeder.
Bleeder's open.
Okay. Close bleeder.
Bleeder's closed.
Resting.
Okay, let's do this one more time just to get some flush on the fluid.
So in order to bleed the brakes, I had to run a virtual version of Windows XP on an old Windows 10 laptop. I found the how-to for this actually on YouTube, and there's also a lot of information on I Hate Mud, where you can download the Toyota TechStream software. I am not overly computer savvy, but I found it all to be pretty easy with the how-tos I found. Everything pretty much worked first try. The Toyota bleeding procedure is pretty easy to follow, and it definitely is a DIY thing to do. It also actually made bleeding the fluid a lot easier. It made purging the lines a lot easier, moving a lot more fluid than we could just pumping the brakes. So overall, I think this is still definitely a DIY, although you do sort of need the Toyota software in order to do this, because we tried bleeding them first the old-fashioned way, and it just wasn't working quite as good as the software was. The software was moving a lot more fluid and purging a lot more air from the lines. So overall, pretty happy with how it turned out. So actually overall, this was a pretty simple DIY. I think this is definitely something that kind of whatever would-be garage mechanic could definitely handle. The longest part for me was honestly just trying to get that clevis pin back on the back into place where it goes. I've seen the videos where people take the entire dash apart to get to those 4 bolts on a brake booster. I don't think it's necessary. It would probably make it a little bit easier getting that clevis pin back in if you remove the ABS module, but like I said, I have a bad track record with old electrical connectors, so I didn't want to do that. But overall, it was pretty easy. I guess it is kind of a little bit tricky as far as figure out how to get a laptop that has Windows XP or a virtual version of Windows XP, and then that TechStream software to work. But there is so much help out there on the I Hate Mud forum and just on YouTube. I found a lot of edit videos that were super helpful, and it worked really well for us. And it definitely made bleeding the brakes a lot easier, and I felt like I got a really good air-free bleed on all 4 corners, and I actually cleaned out all the old fluid in there that looked disgusting, and the brake pedal feel is immensely better. I can't believe it. It's like completely different from before and after. The pedal is way firmer, and it has like way more better modulation and just pedal feel. So overall, this job went pretty well. I hope you guys like this episode, and as always, if you like it, please like and subscribe, and stay tuned for next time. We're going to continue working on the Land Cruiser.